again find ourselves assembled here in the house of the Lord with another opportunity to study a portion of his holy and divine word. And as always, is indeed our prayer that hopefully something is said this morning that you'll find it be beneficial, thereby be applied to your life and be a better Christian and a better person in the future. Certainly our heart continually goes out for those that are mourning the loss of their loved ones. We want to continue to remember them in our prayers, as well as those that are sick and shut in. We want to continue to pray for them. And if the opportunity presents itself throughout the week and you can give them a call or go by and visit them, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to hear any words of encouragement that you may have. We look a little light this morning. I don't know if because we look at the subject. And they so well taught on the subject of deacons, they didn't want to hear no more about deacons. Or I don't know if people thought that I was going to be bashing on the deacons. But let me say this before we get started. Number one, this lesson is not intended to be anything that's directed to or to bash deacons, if you will. Okay? So it's not meant, but hopefully it's something that gives deacons as well as members something to think about in their Christian walk that they might want to consider. And I think it's a very important lesson. It's one that which we've studied before. So I'm not going to go in a lot of what the author talks about, because I think there's some things that we need to look at in this lesson to help us in today's environment. So the author, I like what he says here, and I want to start off with this. He says, Jesus characterized his ministry as one in which he came to serve, not to be served. Mark 10:45. This model is one all Christians are required to emulate. However, there's a leadership role within the church which is characterized by service. Those elders carry on the shepherding work of Jesus. Deacons carry on the servicing ministry of Jesus. And I underline that because I think we need to understand that. I think that in our day's environment, that get lost sometimes. When they talk about the deacons carrying on the servicing ministry of Jesus. And then the author goes on to say the Greek word for deacons or diakonos can be used in a generic sense for servant and is used in the New Testament to refer to different types of persons performing different types of service. It is used in reference to Christ, Romans 15:8, the apostles, Mark 9:45, 10:43, Paul's co-workers, 1 Thessalonians 3:2, Colossians 1:7, and then 4:7. Ministries, 1 Corinthians 3:5, and then evangelists, 1 Timothy 4:6, and all believers, John 12:26. It carries a special meaning when it is used in reference to men who are expressly appointed to specific functions within the church. So men who are what? Who are appointed to specific functions, right? So now, it's something that we get a lot of times and we get confused in is that as Christians, we are all, as the author says here, we are all required to do basically everything, right? But then there's people who are specifically assigned things. And that's something that we need to really think about when we think about various offices within the church. And the author, I think he goes, so I went ahead, I hope you can see this because I can't see it now. So basically, a deacon is one who executes the commands of another, especially a master, a servant, an attendant, a minister. 1A, the servant of a king. 1B, a deacon, one who, by virtue of the office assigned to him by the church, cares for the poor and has charge of and distributing the many collected funds for their use. And so we see that a deacon, by definition, has what? Some specific functions, right? Tasks that they do. And because we use word in our language today, and it gets so confusing sometimes, especially when you look at the language in which they used in past in history, because they understood various things, okay? They didn't have the issues that we have today in terms of elders, because they was, as we talked about a little bit last week, because they grew up in tribes. And so they understood they supposed to have elders, and they understood those elders' role. And then they understood the role but let me slow down here. And so I want to share with you just a few more definitions so that as we go through today's lesson, and we're going to stop and talk about several things, I want to be sure we're saying we're on the same page as we talk about these things. So one of the things we often hear, a word that we often hear, we hear the word ministry. And so the definition of ministry in the Greek language used in the New Testament, the term always centers on the acts of service to others. Okay? And sometimes carries the more powerful connotation of a servitude or slavery to God. So ministry implies a sense of being duty bound to work under God's authority as his loyal servant. So when we talk about a ministry, there's a duty associated with it, or loyalty associated with it, okay? And specifically, a loyalty to God when we're talking about the text that we're talking about today. Then there's a servant, okay? And for us, sometimes the word servant takes on a negative connotation because of our past history. But that's not what the word is. That's not how it's supposed to be. A servant is one definition for being a faithful servant, according to the Bible, is to be devoted and a helpful follower, to be humble before God, to be ready to act as God nudges and inspires us, to help meet the needs of other people, and to render that it is not all about money, that it is not about money or reward. So a servant, if you will, especially when we talk about the what? The church it says what? Somebody that's ready to act. Miriam? Oh, I don't need that. Thank you. Somebody that's ready to act, a helpful follower. And notice it says it's devoted, right? Devoted to something. And then we're going to use this term a lot today, duty. So duty is something that one is expected or required to do by a moral or legal obligation. In other words, you're what? You're obligated to do it, right? The binding or obligatory force of something that is morally or legally right. Moral or legally obligations. The concept of duty in the New Testament emphasizes service and piety. Jesus says that when a servant has done his best, serving his master, he has only performed what? His duty. Luke 17:10. So these are words that we use, and we're going to use these words today that we want to think about, right? And we want to look at it in terms of various offices, specifically the office of deacon today. So now we have to ask ourselves a question. Why was the office of deacon created? Well, let's go to the Bible, like the author likes to say, and let's look. So when we start off, we see here in Acts, the 6th chapter, okay, it says, starting at verses 1, we're going to read verses through 6. It says, now in these days, when the disciples were increasing in number, notice what was going on. The church was growing. Things was good. And remember back in Acts, the 2nd chapter, it says what? They were what? They had all things in common, right? They was doing good, and they were what? They was all together in the Lord, right? And so which suggested they were all happy. They was doing good, right? Now, it says, but in the 6th chapter, when we get around about the 6th chapter, it says what? A complaint by the arose against, should be the Hellenistics in there, arose against the Hebrews because their widows were being neglected in the daily distribution. And the 12 summoned to the full number of the disciples and said, it is not right that we should give up preaching the word of God to serve tables. Therefore, brothers, pick out from among you 7 men good of repute, full of the Spirit and of wisdom, whom we will appoint to do to this duty. Notice what it says. He said, but we will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word. And what they said pleased the whole gathering. and they chose Stephen, a man full of faith of the Holy Spirit, and Philip, and Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmenas, and Nicholas, a proselyte of Antioch. These they set before the apostles, and they prayed and laid their hands on them. So now, we can see right now that something had happened. So the reason, if you will, a complaint arose. They was getting along. Everything was good. But then the Greek-speaking Jews was being neglected or being treated second-handed. And so they what? What happened? They started grumbling. And who did they grumble to? The apostles or the leaders. And so what the apostles said then. And I want you to see something. What was the problem? We just said there was a duty of something not being taken care of. The issue that wasn't being taken care of was their physical needs. You see, and I'm going to get a little bit ahead of myself here. What we sometimes forget and sometimes miss, brethren, that Jesus Christ did is he was always concerned. He knew he had to address the physical needs of the people and before he can address the spiritual needs. Remember that as we go into this lesson. So they were not, and in faith they say they was not being fed. They was not getting their meals on time or in like the others were. So again, as I say, look at what the elders or what the apostles was doing. The apostles was taking care of the spiritual need. Now we talk about elders a little bit we talked about it last week, and we talk about ministers or, if you will, or the preachers. They are tasked to take care of what? The spiritual need. But oftentimes we get them overburdened or worked out or burned out because they can't take care of the spiritual need because they're left with the task of trying to do what? Take care of the physical need. And so let me stop right here when I say that. When we talk, and I know Kevin is doing a great job in talking about, and he's taught a lesson on Job before, and he's talking about our trials now as we go through trials, right? And we know we go through trials, and they was going through. Now notice here, you see, there are different trials. And some trials are not necessarily of your own making. But nevertheless, it's a trial. And so while these people here were, if you will, they understood and they were looking for heaven, and they wanted to go to a place which was called heaven, a better place, but they had a problem right here. And the apostles understood that they needed to take care of the here and now. They can't just say, oh, just be okay, you be all right, you know, you going to heaven. No, you got to take care of this need because it's a physical need. I don't know if y'all getting this part right here. Kevin? So, and it is, and I want to get on into that a little bit more here as we look on at this thing, but I want you to see here the necessity of taking care of the physical. You know, I might be, that's why, again, and he used another scripture which was very good, you know, sometimes the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. So I have to be physically, in other words, you know, and I'll give you an example. I remember one time years ago, some of you don't know this, Clint knows this, I used to love to play basketball. And because I was short, but I was quick. And so what made me a good player was the fact that I was quick, and especially if you was a little bit taller than me, if you was bouncing the ball, in my mind, that was my ball. And I would steal it, Vince. I would take it from you. Had no problem because I was fast. I was quick. And so when I got of age, got a little older, I joined the YMCA, and we was playing, and I hadn't played in a little while. I went downtown, and I went to playing and we were playing full court. And my mind would say, do this. But the body wasn't responding in it. I wanted it. I could see it. I saw me doing it, but the body wasn't physically able to do it anymore. In fact, I had to take this last part. After being out there just for just a short period of time, I raised my hand to get a sub, somebody to come in. They say, you coming out already? I say, I either come out now or y'all need to call Red Ball for some oxygen because I need air. You see, so I wasn't physically ready for the task. So I had to get physically ready for it. Whereas Christians, we need to be physically ready to do the task. So there's a physical component. And so when we look at the world around us and we look at things going on, here's something that we need to think about, brothers, is that we can't always talk about, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. We need to talk about the gospel always. Don't misunderstand it. But it includes the things that are going on around us. We can't turn our heads and our eyes to things that are going on that is affecting our environment. We have to discuss these things too. And I know we don't always agree, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let me move on because I want to get you into this lesson as much as I can. Notice something else here, brothers. It says when they picked them, when they said that, guess who got excited? The whole congregation. Who did they talk to? The whole congregation. There's a need sometimes, brethren, when we make decisions, when we decide to change or do something differently, that we might decide to do it, but we need to come and have a conversation with the whole congregation and make sure they understand what's going on. Sometimes just saying the brothers decided ain't enough. I know y'all might not want to hear that, but sometimes that ain't enough. Yeah, you can do it and go on, but you ain't taking the whole group with you. So there is a advantage to getting together, making a decision, understanding it, and then coming out and teaching on it so others understand exactly what it is you're doing and why. Take that for what it's worth. Listen what he said there. He said, full of spirit and of wisdom. In other words, he was saying you need to have some highly motivated people. Why? Because we have to be ready to act. I can't help it, but I can't help it. I just imagine in my mind, because we got so many military people that go to the congregation, people who have either been in it or in it now. And I see an officer walk off in the room, and they say attention, and everybody get up. But now a lieutenant or a colonel walks in the room, and I'm a sergeant, and I'm sitting there, and I can barely get up. Just sit there. How does that work, y'all? Huh, Vince? Thank you. And a great point. I guess what I'm trying to get to is how is it then when leadership, specifically the minister, gets up and says something, and then the last folks to move, I'm just trying to get y'all to see something. I'm trying to get y'all to understand something. You see, they were to pick people who were highly motivated, ready to act. To me, that's saying that somebody sitting there with their eyes and their ears listening for what do I need to do next. I can't wait to do something. Put me in, coach. I'm ready. We need more people that are ready to be moved in. I understand that sometimes we get wore down and we're tired. Right? Sometimes I just told you, sometimes you're not physically able. But that's okay. That's why I said this last week, that's why they make the term retirement. When you're no longer able, that don't mean you didn't do a great job when you were able to do it. Like I just told you, I was a good basketball player. Ask Clint, he's not in here right now, at that time. But there came a time I had to put my basketball tennis shoes up because I couldn't do what I used to. My mind says, I'm ready. Oh, I know how we want to. Now my mind says, I can't do it, but let me appoint somebody to do it in my place. Well, no, that's not the way it do. It says, I'm obligated. I'm duty bound. It's my responsibility. So that you're in on something else. That means that when there's no one around to do it, I'm the one that's done it. I have to get it done. Let me bring it back to you this way. So we use the word minister, and in this day's environment, sometimes they interchange the word pastor interchangeable, even though we don't do it because we know what biblically that's not correct. But the reason that's the case oftentimes is because we see them doing it because the minister, the one that's entrusted to bring the sermon, is often expected to do everything else too. For an example, if the church lights need to be turned on, if the building need to be warmed or cooled, who do we look to? If it ain't right, who we go to? But we got deacons. Physical needs. Something ain't working. Who do we go to? Somebody sick. Who do we go to? Somebody need help. Somebody needs to be fed. Somebody said, call the preacher.
I would say, on that note, just in my mind, when you said that most times when there's an issue, we tend to call the person that's going to be most reliable and going to respond to it.
Well, wait a minute now. If we go back to what we looked at as definitions, we look at the definition, it couldn't be nobody more reliable than the deacons. Right? Because we're talking about now you were right. What he said is exactly right. He's honest. What he said is right. But I'm saying to you in the setup of the church, and I'm going to show you why that's important in just a minute. But when you look at it, the apostles here, who was capable of, in fact, let me go back a little bit further, even than that. And I came out, I think Brother Dan and me had talked to somebody talked this lesson on it. But if you go back into Exodus, I think it's around about the 18th chapter, you'll find Moses there, getting up in the morning and staying up all evening because he's doing everything. He's making every decision, making every judgment for the people. And his father-in-law came to him and said, Moses, you're trying to do too much. He says you need to sign some people to do some of the things. They can take care of these matters while you take care of the more heavier matters. Right? Now, let me put that in context for you, if you will. So, when it comes to our spiritual needs, that's more pressing because it's more everlasting than our physical needs. But the difference is you can't understand or just see my spiritual needs at a glance. And so somebody has to be really studying and really looking and sensing the spiritual needs. And so that requires a lot more time. But my physical needs are pretty apparent. And so it doesn't take a whole lot to do that. And so that's why you can't task those that take care of the spiritual needs with the things that are needed to take care of the physical needs. Kevin?
That's the same really what we of our love. Okay, so we have to. I mean, we can't preach stuff and then don't put it into action. So I mean, if you're trying to draw a person to Christ, the addressing the physical need, it really shows the love that you have for the individual, that you're trying to tell them that you love them and you're trying to save their soul with the spiritual. That has to be supplemented by the action addressing the physical.
Yes, it is so true. Let me tell you why I'm saying it. Let me bridge these things together for you. Watch this. Why was the office of deacons created? To protect the family of God, the church. I would suggest to you the devil's first attack, his first assault against the church was to attack the church family. He attacked their physical needs. He didn't come at their spiritual. They was doing good. They was singing, praising God, and having favor among all the people. They was doing great. Spiritually, they was doing wonderful. And so the devil said, I got something for you. Let's go after the physical. Again, I told you, Kevin teacher, he talked a lot about Job. What was the first thing that he attacked on Job? His physical, his family. That's what the devil does. He understands where we are most vulnerable. And so the deacons have an important role here. I don't want y'all to misunderstand it. This is an important role. It's like the first line of defense. The deacons are. You know, and I had to use this because I can't think of anything else now. But you think of a military base or a military group that's out. And I've never been out there. I've never done all this. But I just tell you, my even knowledge of this is I watch a lot of Westerns, so I watch that. And when you out there, there's a possibility of the enemy attacking you. You put up sentries, or you put somebody standing on guard. Right? Even Jesus Christ, when he was getting ready to prepare, he went to the apostles. And what? And pray. So it's always good to have somebody on guard. But when he came back, now I don't want to ask these, I don't want to get Vince excited on y'all again. So I want to ask these military people what happens when the guards go to sleep, when they on duty. Say what he said again? See, I'm finna get him going, y'all. Huh? A severe penalty. So what happened? Who was our guards? I said, y'all won't say it, the deacons. What happened when they go to sleep? This is not, I'm not talking about the deacons here. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to jump on the deacons. I want you to say that again. I want the deacons all upset. You can get mad. I'm just giving you some things that you need to look at. There you go. That's what I'm saying. So it's not that I don't want to say it. It's not that I'm not standing behind what I say. I'm just saying I don't want you to take this as if I'm trying to jump on the deacons, because I'm not. But I'm trying to get you to understand the significance of these roles. It's not just there so it's sometimes we look at things as more like going through pomp and circumstance, where we get up and we walk around and we parade and we say this, and it's nice to have this position, this title. That's not what it is. The church suffers. The body suffers. Right? And we finna get into it why. We finna get exactly that. And so I want you, but remember that now. And so I want you to see something here. I want you to see something. So now we look at the church as a family, and the family is attacked. Now I want you to look at, if you think about this for an example, and I'm so glad that God used this for an example to show us about the family. If you want to look at what's messing up our country more than anything in the world, is the breakdown of the family. the breakdown of the family. Somebody in the family is not taking their responsibility or their duty seriously. And as a result, we have significant breakdown. I'm not going to go with my lesson, is not to go into that, but you just go back and look up all the stuff and look at the marriage and look at the family structure and see how it has changed over the years. And you see how people and how kids are looking at that now. But now, things a family needs to survive. See, the family has to survive. So there's some things the family needs. And so when we can look at our physical family, we can also understand our spiritual family. Because we got a spiritual family. One thing a family needs is support. A thing that bears the weight of something or keeps it upright. So what we're looking for our deacons is some support. When I'm not what I need to be, when I'm not here as I ought to be, when things are not going as it should be, I need to look to my deacons. I need to look up and see a deacon coming. Brother Brown, how you doing? I've been missing you. I've been worrying about you. How's everything going? Can we go out to dinner? Can we go? Let's have a conversation, Brother Brown. Amen. Let's see what's going on in your life. Y'all getting quiet now. You see, the reason I can call my brother or my sister up and say those things, I'm talking about my physical brothers and sisters now, is because we grew up together. And I know them. And they know me. They, in spite of my shortcomings, they know I love them and they love me. And so when I call them up, they ain't saying, now what is he doing now? He calling me because Brother Danby told him me. Or he calling me because he want to get some information just to go out and slander me. They know that's not why I'm calling. They know I call them because I'm here. I'm here for you to lean on, brother. I know you're going through some difficult time right now. You can lean on me, regardless of what your problem is. And guess what? I'm going to help keep you upright. We all need somebody to lean on. Now, what do we look like, brethren, if everybody in this building is leaning over on Brother Danby and Brother Gordon? How do you think they're going to stand up? How do you think they're going to hold up if we all leaning on them? We need some other what? Post in the building. Y'all want to say, this lesson ain't difficult. I don't know why y'all want to say it. This building is not standing up on one or two posts. It has a whole lot of other posts giving support. There's some main some main posts, but there's a lot of more giving the support. And that's why you have deacons, to offer that additional support. Somebody said this earlier. Kevin, I think, said about it. Another thing a family needs to survive, it needs loving and caring for other members or family members. Every family member needs to know that they are loved and that they are cared about and cared for. And the only way they can know that is you have to have enough people out there. It's too many folks in the congregation for one or two people to know everything they need to know about the situation. And sometimes the situation may be something so let me give an example. If I have a child, just to throw that out for an example, that may have had something to happen, pretty horrific, right? And I didn't plan for that. And that ain't necessarily a trial, if you will, in terms of the God putting a trial on me, but the devil is working here. And that he's attacking my family. I'm spiritually okay, but the devil is attacking my family. Don't you think that's going to start taking me and taking my mindset and giving me some problems? And so when I got somebody that show up, how you think that's going to make me feel? Huh? Let me share something else with you. I just happened, because I had making a promise. I've been making a promise, and I try to keep my word. I had been promising a brother that I know that's ill, and pretty ill, and promising this brother that I was going to come see him. And so one day I happened to be out close to his house, and I said, I'm going by there today. I done made this, I'm going there today. And I went there. And this brother said, I've been waiting for somebody, anybody. He said, I don't know. None of my neighbors come visit me. Get off my family. He said, and I don't hear from nobody. And he was just so uplifted by me coming by there. And guess what, brothers? I was only there just a few minutes. And guess what he said, last thing he said to me? You made my day. Now, how good can that make you feel? To let you know that you made, and that's people, I'm just saying, there's people sitting out there waiting for us to come make their day. And guess what? Some of us, while all of us should do it, some of us have signed up. Well, I got to say that again. I like it. It sounds good to me, y'all. I had to say that. Some of us have signed up to do it. Deacons. I know that. I'm with it. A family needs security. In other words, it needs to have a sense of belonging, knowing that I'm a part, knowing that I'm cared for, knowing that I'm important. And the way I know that is somebody let me know when I missed. If everything goes on without me, and my presence is not required, then it's like, we don't need you. We can go right on without you. Everybody wants a sense of belonging. Now, how would you feel? I'm talking again about your physical family. If your physical family threw a family reunion and they invited everybody but you. They say, well, you could have came. You should have called us. Y'all ain't getting this lesson. Y'all ain't with me on this thing, huh? You want somebody in the family to reach out and say, hey, are you coming to the reunion? I hadn't heard about the reunion. Well, you having a reunion, and it will not be a reunion if you're not there. That's what you want somebody to say. Well, I fell out with cousin so-and-so. Well, that's all right. But we having a family reunion. Come on, cousin so-and-so going to be cousin so-and-so, but you come on anyway. I have to say this before I get off of that. Right now in our environment, right now in our society, you look around us and there's nobody willing to give up anything, to compromise on anything to get along. I can give you 95% of what you want, and I only ask for 5% of what I want, and you say that ain't good enough. In order for us to make it, I have to have 100% my way. And if I can't have it 100% my way, and we tear it down, we tear it up. We tear the church up over stuff like that. Because what? We can't have it our way. We fall out with somebody. Sometimes, I get that. Sometimes church family going to fall out. But when things happen, you need to set some things aside and come together. I had a friend of mine, unfortunately, lost his father. And because of some things, I won't go into the whole situation, but and you see this more and more in today's environment, the family couldn't come together to have a funeral. And so they're having it all kind of ways. Why? Because people can't set aside their differences for something very serious. And what can be more serious than the church? Amen. Why can't we set aside our differences for a little while to have church service? Yeah, I will be there, but so-and-so going to preach, so I ain't coming. Yeah, I will be there, but so-and-so going to lead songs, and I ain't coming. Well, you know, they got Brown going to teach their Bible class, so I ain't coming. David busy, Anthony? All right, Anthony. I mean, we won't put aside our differences for anything. Sometimes you need to put aside your differences to let God. To let God. Let me move on because I know y'all, you look at me. Open communication. Here's one we really need to look at. A family has to be able to communicate. And that's when I say open communication, or if you look it up, it's when all parties are able to express ideas to one another, such as in a conversation or a debate. So it doesn't mean we got to agree. But I need to understand what it is that you're feeling. I need to understand what it is going on. I need to understand what it is you're saying. And you need to understand what I'm saying. Amen. I mean, I need to feel comfortable and feel free to do that. Right. You know, I don't know about you, but I don't say, oh, why my fingers afraid to hurt these feelings because I say something. Amen. I can say what I want to say. They might be mad at me. We might fall out. We might not even speak for a day or two, but we come back together. That's correct. That's it. Amen. That's what we do. Amen. So why in the church we like this? Well, I can't say nothing. I might hurt somebody. Or they not say nothing to me. What's wrong with it? What kind of family is that? That's the devil, y'all, turning me off. I know this. That's all right. That's all right. There's some folks in here to turn me off all this too. So we need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to discuss our honest, sincere feelings to one another. Now, I'm not saying coming in here in this meeting is always the opportune time to have that discussion. That's why, brothers, specifically deacons, we need to be out. We need to be about doing just that. And here's something fun. I am going to get in trouble with this one. Sorry about it, Brother Dan. I tell you, I'm going to get in trouble with this. You know, you can understand when we say, well, you know, I work, Brother Brown, 12 hours a day. So I don't really have time to get out there all the time. But most of our deacons are retired. I said it. I said it. I'm looking at you when I say it. I ain't going to say it to them because I'm... Huh? I just don't know what the conversation is going to be like when y'all see Jesus. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Everything you talk about is everything from a biblical standpoint. A lot of times, even when we talk about going out and presenting the gospel, we don't think about going out. We expect people to come in.
Yes.
We expect people to come to church. We expect people to come to Bible study. From a biblical standpoint, that's not true. Our job, commission to go. The same thing is, when we want to look at it from a biblical standpoint, as far as our serving one another, is to go. It's not to wait for someone to come to me. I need to be able to see that someone in my own home. I didn't wait for my children to come to me with a need. I should have already seen the need with my wife. I shouldn't expect my wife to come to me with every need. I should be able to see the need. So many times I hear folks say, well, I didn't see it. I didn't know it. Why don't you know? I'm going to say it. If I see it, I think everybody else can see it. If I see a piece of paper on the floor,
That's right.
and I'm walking up to it, and my eyes aren't any better than anybody else's, I expect everybody for instance, a person on the street asking for something, everybody sees it, and I've done this, lived in the city, is that sometimes what we do is we try to walk like we don't see. We want to acknowledge that person. So if I think if I don't acknowledge that person, if I don't say anything, then I'm free from my responsibility to deal with that.
That's exactly right.
And so what we have to do is we have to retrain our mind to understand that I need to be able to be on the lookout for somewhere to serve. Look for an opportunity to serve. Jesus looked for opportunities to serve.
You know, and I just want to tell y'all now, I got to confess, he indicted me right there. Because one of the things I do when I see those people on there, I try my best not to make eye contact. Because if I make eye contact, they got me. I don't want to look them in the eye. And maybe that's why maybe that's what's wrong with us when we greet one another with, instead of doing the holy kiss, maybe we all look each other in the eye. I know she got her hand up. Kevin, you got your hand up? I know she had. It does. And in fact, what you're saying there is what that makes people question is whether or not you really care. Right? And that's what we have to be about. We have to be about showing everyone that we care. And it starts with our guards. And our guards, we say, well, who? The deacons, right? They're our first line of defense. Again, remember now, you have to understand, our adversary, the devil, is seeking to what? Infiltrate and devour us. And so we have to have guards out there helping protect us. Yes, ma'am. So maybe even the deacons ought to be up there when we get to leave out. Maybe some of them ought to be guarding the back door, because some of us go out the back door, right? Preacher can't be at the front door and the back door. So maybe we ought to post some deacons at the back door. I'm just saying, Brother Price. And that is so true, right? And so we shouldn't make those assumptions about everything. And that's why sometimes in this class, because this class is a verse, if you will, group. And some of you are in one stage of your Christian growth, where others are in another stage. And so sometimes I try to explain some things that you may already understand and know. But somebody over here is saying something that I sense from being up here that I need to address. It ain't that I disagree with you. I'm trying to help them along. And so you have to understand and be patient with everybody in the class, right? Just think about a teacher who used to teach the first grade and she went all the way to the 6th grade. Well, she got a whole, or he has a whole what? Diverse group that they are teaching. And so they have to start and realize that some people ain't where you are. And so, but importantly here, and I'm finna run out of time if I don't hurry up here, hate that. Also, they need a family needs encouragement, right? Making each person within their family feel important, valued, respected, and esteemed. So it's important that if we're going to have a successful family, a successful church family, then everybody here needs to feel that way. And so you had to ask yourself, especially if you have taken on the obligation or the duty in a leadership role here, whether you're a preacher, teacher, or deacon. You got to do those things. It's your job to look out and look at the flock, look at the family, and see who needs some more encouragement now. Now, let me tell you something else about encouragement. Oh, let me get your hand, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So I want to say this, and I can't take too much time on this because I'm running out of time. But he said something there that I want to get y'all to understand. It's interesting that he says people have been here 10 years and they know, I want to say, I may know of you. But I don't necessarily know you. You see, to know you means I have spent some time with you. I know some specific things about you. In fact, I'll give you an example which I thought was very good, and I hope they don't mind me showing this or sharing this, but I had an opportunity to spend a celebration with Brother and Sister Price. And I've been knowing Brother Price or being here with Brother Price a number of years. But I learned more about them because his family had a little quiz thing. I learned more about him in 30 minutes. And I don't know if we've been together 30 years or not, but I learned more in that 30 minutes about Brother Price. I didn't know that. And I was surprising to me, and same thing with Sister Price. And it was surprising to me there were some things that we had really in common. It surprised me. And that's why it's important, if you will, for us to spend that time. Because coming back to what I'm going to tell you, want to encourage me. Because here's what encouragement is. Sometimes we have to be willing to take one another and encourage me. Sometimes I may have to take your hand and show you the way. It ain't enough for me to say, follow me. Sometimes you might need to hold my hand. That's why I love the song, Jesus, hold my hand. Huh? You want him to hold your hand. It ain't that you don't want to go, but you need that hand holding. You need some what? Some encouragement, right? I got to say this, y'all. This is completely off my lesson. This probably started y'all probably disregard everything I got to say when I say this. You know, y'all brought up here a few weeks ago, we were talking about clapping, hand clapping. And so I went back because I felt so bad because I really didn't study that, you all. And I thought maybe somebody might bring it up the next week. So I said, I better go get on this thing. And I went back, when I looked up, and I want y'all to go to this. When I went and looked up just hand clapping, you want to know one of the first things we learned in our life as a child? What is the first thing y'all learn, y'all? Wait a minute now. It got nothing to do with my lesson. Just want to tell you that. First thing, Vince, I couldn't even walk. Bad cake. All right. I'm trying to encourage you. Sometimes y'all need to do a little patty cake in it. I just want to encourage y'all with a little patty cake, all right? I don't have time. You've done it before. I don't have time to go through all these qualifications of the deacon. I think y'all already studied this before, and you know what they are, right? They have to be men that are what? Of good reputation, not known for telling the untruths, right? They got to be men that what? Can defend the gospel, right? They know something about the house of the Lord. They know about the gospel, right? They got to have what? Say again? One wife. She said the one wife, right? And not only, but the wife got to be what? She got to be an honorable person too, right? Right? So we know some things and something, and so we know what the qualifications, right? But it's one thing to be qualified to be a deacon. It's another thing to be doing the work of a deacon. And so when we take on our office, I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to leave you with this. Regardless of what it is that you take on to do in the service of the Lord, if you take on that office, I'm going to encourage you that you need to go and study what it means to be in that office and make it your business to go about doing that, because what I want you to understand is the Lord is going to hold you accountable. So now, as a deacon, you are accountable to the members as well, but the members may not be able to do nothing. Leadership may not want to do anything. Somebody might be a deacon. I'm just throw this out while I'm there, and they may not want to be, may not should be a deacon, and so leadership fails to take them out of the role. But I want us to know something. God always takes us out of the role. When you obey the gospel of Christ and become a member of His body, when you fail to do what you're supposed to do, guess what? We may not know it, but God knows, and God take you out. That's why that's what I like about Acts 2 and 44. Because He does the adding. And by virtue of Him doing the adding, that means I don't have to come to you to be added. Because He does the adding. And guess what? He don't have to come to me to do the subtracting. Because if He can add, so what I would say to our deacons is this. I love this scripture, one of my favorite scriptures in the book. He says, rise up. The matter is in your hand. We will support you, so take courage and do it. Brother Gordon.